France snatched a 1-0 win over Belgium to progress to the World Cup final, where they'll be joined by a Croatia side that managed to overcome Gareth Southgate's England, winning 2-1 after extra time. The final round of the McDonald's FIFA World Cup fantasy game will not only include the exciting clash between France and Croatia, but there'll also be points awarded for the third place playoff match between Belgium and England. Once again, there are 5 free transfers at our disposal, and here's the current plan on where to use them. It's difficult to predict how strong the lineups will be that England and Belgium put out, whether they'll give minutes to some of their fringe players who haven't played so much in the tournament so far, or whether they'll go full strength. We do get to see the lineups for that match prior to the deadline, so we can react to those when finalising our transfers, but for the sake of planning, these 5 transfers are assuming that England will rotate a little bit, following the extra time defeat against Croatia. France's set-piece specialist Antoine Griezmann has been directly involved in 5 goals throughout the tournament so far, scoring 3 times and providing 2 assists. It's been frustrating to own Kylian Mbappe ahead of him for the last couple of rounds, but now is finally the time to put that right. If Harry Kane is rotated, selling the England forward will be an easy decision, but if not, bringing Griezmann in is still probably going to be a priority. France have kept 4 clean sheets on the road to the World Cup final, more than any other team in the tournament. So Raphael Varane and Samuel Umtiti are set to come into the team, in place of England defenders Kieran Trippier and Harry Maguire. Again, this is a decision that will be made easier if Southgate brings the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold and Gary Cahill into his starting 11 to face Belgium. Victor Claesson and Fernando Muslera were knocked out of the competition a couple of rounds ago, and it's finally time to move them on. Nacer Chadli had a key role on set pieces for Belgium against France, so he could be the man to come in if he's named in the starting lineup once again. With Subasic already in our team, Croatia's backup goalkeeper Kalinic could come in as a cheap enabler, to essentially fund the other 4 transfers. Let's take a look at how the team could shape up after those expected changes. Subasic remains the only playing goalkeeper in the squad, but the thinking here is that the third place playoff between Belgium and England may be more likely to have goals in it, since there's less at stake there. Thomas Meunier returns from suspension, and the rest of the backline will be made up of France defenders. France have kept more clean sheets than any other team at the 2018 World Cup, and both Belgium and Uruguay failed to score against them in the previous knockout rounds. At this point, going all in on one of the teams seems like a valid approach to take, since there are no further rounds to come, and therefore you don't need to think about hedging as much or being able to field a team after this round. Jesse Lingard is perhaps at risk of rotation if Southgate decides to freshen up his team, so again that's a situation where we really need that early team news before finalising the transfer decisions. Elsewhere, Nacer Chadli, Marouane Fellaini and Kevin De Bruyne are set to complete the midfield, under the assumption that Belgium could be less inclined to rotate, given their extra rest time ahead of the England game. But alternatively, it might be an option to go with another budget midfielder from England instead of Chadli, perhaps Ruben Loftus-Cheek if he comes into the starting 11. The thinking here is that the teams playing in the third place playoff are more likely to play with freedom and without pressure, and that could lead to more goals being scored. If he's named in Belgium's starting lineup, Romelu Lukaku is likely to be given the captain's armband on day 1, with Antoine Griezmann taking over for day 2 if needed. The pair have each been directly involved in 5 goals in the tournament so far. There'll also be options to bring on from the bench for day 2, in the form of Kylian Mbappe, Luka Modric and Benjamin Pavard. As you'll know by now if you're a regular viewer, these team selection previews aren't locked in. There may be some changes to the final team, depending on last minute team news or injuries. So be sure to give us a follow on Twitter @_FPL Tips to get any potential updates to this team prior to Saturday's deadline.